Johnny Murray here, and welcome back to another ranking. Now, I think it's about time that I do my top studios of video games again, because it's been a while since I've done it, and the last time I did my top 10, so we're going to be upping it a little bit. We're going to be doing my top 15 studios, video game studios, and the list has changed quite a bit. There's been a couple additions, there's been a couple moves, which I just realized I did not order this at all. And so, you know what? We're not gonna order it. I realized I didn't order, like, in terms of, like, what's 15 and what's 1. I didn't order it. I will say I definitely have my top 3. My top 3 is, like, pretty much a lock. Yeah. Actually, you know what? I might even go as far as say I might have my top 5 as a lock. Maybe. Ooh, that's a little questionable. But yeah, we do have 15. But if you guys love video games, consider subscribing, consider sharing with your friends. I appreciate any support you guys give me, especially on this video right here. We cover video game content daily. Doesn't matter what you like. PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, third-party, indie. Cover it all. But I appreciate any support. But let's get into this ranking. Now, I do have 2 honorable mentions to start this off and the reasons these are honorable mentions is because while I like the studios and I think they are very talented, I don't feel like me putting them on the top 15 list, like today, at the time of recording this, which by the way, it's August 30th at the time of recording this, and it'll make sense why I said the date after you hear these 2 studios. I feel like it'd be glazing if I put them in my top 15, number 1, because I'm just super excited, and then number 1, because I'm recently fell in love with the game. So I put them in my honorable mentions because in a month or two, I could easily see these 2 being in my top 15, but right now it would kind of be glazing because one of them is Team Asobi, and they've only made a VR game and basically a PlayStation 5 demo that is a fantastic demo, but it is a fantastic game, being Astro's Playroom. But when they finally release their first full official game, being Astrobot, the game genuinely looks like it's going to be, like, up there with, like, the greatest games of all time. Like, I'm just saying it. I'm just saying it right now. It genuinely looks phenomenal. And, yeah, I just don't think right now, for where the studio is, I easily see it being in my top 15 if Astrobot just lands the way I think it will. And then the other one is Game Science, which is the studio behind Black Myth Wukong. I just beat Black Myth Wukong, and it is probably one of my favorite games of all time now. The game is, I absolutely love it, but that is recency bias, and one game, you know, all right, I love it, you know, if I love the game that much, yeah, it's definitely gonna be in my top 15 conversation, but I would love to see what that studio does next as well. But let's get in to my actual top 15 ranking. Now, like I said, these aren't really in order except for my top 3, so we'll get to that. But let's start off with one that I just absolutely love games from them. Every time they announce a new game, it's always creative. It's super engaging. And by the way, this top 15 list, all these studios are like, if this game, and that's kind of how I decided what's in my top 50, in my top 15. If this studio released the game, I'm automatically playing. It is a day 1 buy for this studio, no matter what. Like, it just is. And when I thought about that, I'm like, okay, what games have done that for me in the past, and what games will I continue to do that for? And one of them is Naughty Dog. Naughty Dog is the studio that has developed my favorite franchise of all time, my favorite video game franchise of all time, being Uncharted. Uncharted, I do believe, is a masterpiece of a franchise. I think every game is a 10 out of 10, and I believe that. And even though Last of Us Part 2 I was not the biggest fan of because of its story, Naughty Dog is so talented when it comes to the visuals, when it comes to the music, when it comes to gameplay. They are so amazing. I loved Last of Us Part 1. And, you know, I just can't take one misstep. For me personally, there are people who still love Last of Us Part 2. But even though Last of Us Part 2 was a misstep for me, I can't just automatically discredit and say Naughty Dog is no longer one of my favorites, because at the end of the day, they absolutely still are. And then the next one is Santa Monica. This is a studio that has been growing in the ranks ever since, you know, obviously rebooting the God of War franchise and just delivering masterpiece after masterpiece. There is almost no way I can't put in my top 15 because they are just so talented. They make movies. They make genuine art. Like, this is why I put these two next to each other, Santa Monica and Naughty Dog. Both of those studios, whatever their next game is, it's going to be the biggest game, like one of the biggest games of the year. And you just know you're going to be getting a high quality thing. You know, will you resonate with the story? Will you resonate with the gameplay? Will you resonate with the characters? That remains to be seen. But you know it's going to have top tier visuals. You know it's going to have top tier, like, polish. You know it's going to have top tier audio, music. You know it's going to have top tier storytelling. It's just a matter of what it actually is. And these are two studios that no matter what they put out, I'm going to be playing day one. And they are just so talented. This next studio is a creative one. It's a smaller studio, so this is going to be the first smaller studio on my list. And that is Moon Studios. Moon Studios is so fun. I absolutely love them. They developed the Ori games, as well as recently they developed No Rest for the Wicked. I really enjoyed No Rest for the Wicked for what I've played. That's definitely a game I want to go back to near the end of the year when games stop releasing as much. But from what I played, I absolutely love it. And then Ori Will of the Wisp is up there in my top 50 games of all time. It's one of my favorite Metroidvanias, one of my favorite art styles. And that's what I love about Moon. They just deliver such amazing art styles, and I just can't get enough of that. And they're super creative. Every game they do is super unique and super different, and I love studios like that. Another creative but smaller studio I'm going to say is Tango Gameworks. Now, this is an interesting one because there's been a lot of talk and a lot of drama about Tango recently because they were closed. They were closed for a good 2 to 3 months, and then Krafton resurrected them and bought them from Xbox. So they are a former Xbox studio, but they are still here now, which thank God. And they made Hi-Fi Rush, one of my favorite games of last year, one of my favorite Xbox games of all time, and one of just my favorite games of all time as well. I absolutely loved that game. And then they also developed the Ghostwire Tokyo, which I thought was a really, really good game. Then they developed the Evil Within games. I think those are really good. They're just such a talented studio, super creative. All three of those games that I just listed, Hi-Fi Rush, Ghostwire Tokyo, and Evil Within, are all so different from one another. They have so much versatility, so much variety, and they just deliver great products after another. I absolutely love Tango, and you best believe whatever they decide to work on next, now being a part of a different company, I'm going to be all over it. I'm going to be there day one, and I'm going to fully support it. Thank you so much, Krafton, for bringing Tango back from the dead. We love to see it. Now, the next one is an interesting one because it's in my top 15 because at the end of the day, if there is a game that is one of my favorite games of all time, that studio is automatically in contention, and this is the definition of that. I haven't played any of their other games except for my second favorite game of all time, and that is Returnal. House Marquee is a studio that I'm just so excited to see what they do next because I loved Returnal so much. They somehow delivered my favorite gameplay I've ever played in any game. Returnal has my favorite gameplay. I just absolutely love it, and that is why they're in my top 15 studios of all time. They are just super talented. They did such a great job with Returnal that no matter what they do next, I'm going to be over the moon about it. And yeah, that to me is what a favorite studio is no matter what they do, you're all on board and you fully support them. And that's how I feel about House Marquee. Let's go with another former Xbox studio, and that is Toys for Bob. They develop the platformers they developed the Spyro and Crash games in their respective franchises, and those are two of my favorite platforming franchises and characters, and they just went independent, and they're working on a new game partnering with Xbox. I personally think it's going to be a Spyro and Crash Bandicoot crossover. I know they said that they canceled that, but I think they're bringing it back. I think that's going to be their next game, and I'm super excited. But Crash Bandicoot 4 is one of my favorite platformers of all time. I love the Spyro games. They do some good spin-offs with Nitro Kart or Nitro Fueled, whatever. Crash Team Racing, and then they did Crash Team Rumble, which I thought was fun for what it was. They're just such a talented platforming studio, and yeah, can't wait to see what they do next. All right, let's jump to an actual Xbox studio now, and that is Playground Games. Playground Games is in my top. This is different from like something like House Marquee or let's go with, I don't know, Toys for Bob, where they don't necessarily make anything that is my favorite of all time. This is a studio that's in my top 15 purely because of how talented and consistent they are. You can absolutely count on this studio to deliver a banger. And the fact that they are now expanding their horizon, no pun intended, because they obviously developed the Forza Horizon series, which have been the highest rated Xbox games and racing games of all time. But the fact that they're now going into things like Fable, which is an RPG, they have a lot of variety and they have a lot of versatility, and they can really just express their range of creativity and talent. And this is a studio that knows how to polish a game. This is a game that knows how to work with visuals on an elite level that we don't see from a lot of other studios. This is a studio that has to be in my top 15 just purely based off of the talent and skill. Now, another one, we're going to go jump to another Xbox studio, and that is Obsidian Entertainment. This is one where it's purely based off, again, the quality and talent of the team, but also the quantity. They are very consistent with their output. There has been Pentiment, there's been Outer Worlds, there has been Grounded, and we're getting Avowed, plus Outer Worlds 2 is already announced. They just do so much. They made the Fallout New Vegas game, which is like debatably the best Fallout game. So Obsidian has just they really just check every box: consistency, quality, and quantity. You just absolutely love it, and creativity. They make some really good games as well. The next studio we're going to talk about has definitely fallen. They were in my top 5 studios. They might have even been my top 3 studios at one point, but unfortunately their last release didn't wow me. But that is NetherRealm Studios. No matter what, I'm still going to be super excited for the next NetherRealm games. They do make my favorite fighting games. I just love the Mortal Kombat and Injustice styles. Unfortunately, Mortal Kombat 1 I wasn't the biggest fan of. I still really enjoyed it, but it didn't live up to my expectations or to what 11 or X or Injustice 2 was. Injustice 2 is my favorite fighting game of all time, so, take that how you will. But, yeah, NetherRealm's still in here. I can't wait to see what they do next. Personally, I hope it's not another Mortal Kombat. I hope it's either Injustice 3 or something else. Maybe Marvel versus DC, please. That would be a dream come true. Doubt it, but, yeah. The next studio we're going to talk about is Avalanche. A bit of a smaller studio, but they really just do a whole bunch of things. They have so much variety. They've made the Hogwarts Legacy games. They made a smaller game called Second Extinction. That was like a Game Pass Day 1 game that me and my friend really, really enjoyed. They're currently working on a Xbox exclusive co-op game called, oh gosh, what is it called? Contraband. But the big thing here and why they became one of my favorites is they developed the Just Cause games. And Just Cause 4 is one of my favorite games of all time, and I absolutely love Just Cause 3 as well, and Just Cause 2 is really good. And so Avalanche really just does it all, and they've just always spoken to me. I've been a fan of all their products up to this point, so I'm just super excited to see what Contraband actually is. I think they're already working on Hogwarts Legacy 2, and I'm curious if we're ever going to get another Just Cause game. If we do, I'm going to cry, but that's just how it is. But yeah, Avalanche has to be in there. So now we reach, I believe, our top 5, unless I missed any, which I don't think we did. So now we got my top 5. If this is my top 5, I don't know. I didn't necessarily make a list. I'll tell you what my maybe top 4 is, maybe. So we'll start with what I think is 5, and that is Frontier. They make the Planet Coaster games and the Jurassic World Evolution games. They make other things too, like Elite Dangerous, but I don't really play that. This is one of those extremely biased studios of why it's in my top 15. Because this is the best studio of a genre that I absolutely love, and that is park builders. I love park builders. And Planet Coaster and Jurassic World Evolution are those, and those are the best games in that respective genre, and this is the best studio that makes those kind of games. So it's just a complete personal pick here. But they are super talented. They deliver a lot of content through DLC, through games. They have a lot of different variety. I mean, you're going from a zoo to a theme park, but then you even got things like Elite Dangerous and stuff like that. They're just a studio that I'm always paying attention to, and whatever they announce, I'm always interested in. And a studio that has so many hours of my life sunken into. So I just absolutely love them. But moving into number 4, I would say, is Respawn Entertainment. They're owned by EA. Look, they are easily EA's best studio. I'm going to just say it. They make the Star Wars Jedi games, and they made my favorite first-person shooter of all time, being Titanfall 2. They just have a lot of variety and a lot of talent and a lot of quality and consistency. And yeah, I can always count on them to delivering some of my favorite games of every year. Just please make Titanfall 3. That's really all I ask. But nonetheless, I'm super excited for the third entry in the trilogy for Star Wars Jedi. That'll be awesome. But yeah, Respawn just has to be here. I just love their games too much, and they're too consistent. But now we reach my top 3. And number 3 is the definition of quantity and quality. And that's Insomniac Games. Now, personally, if you ask me what I personally think is the most consistent and best studio today, I think I would probably say Insomniac. Just this generation alone, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and Spider-Man 2, with already Wolverine announced. And unfortunately, we did get leaks that they were working on a Venom game, Spider-Man 3, X-Men, another Ratchet & Clank game, and more. They are just a different breed of studios. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is one of my favorite games of all time. Currently my favorite platformer of all time. I say that because Astrobot's on his way. We'll see. And then we have Spider-Man, Marvel Spider-Man, which is also one of my favorite games of all time. They are just different. They are just different, and I just love their how they have such a huge horizon. They're going from platformer to superhero game to, I guess, God of War-esque with Wolverine. They just know how to cook. They just know how to cook. But yeah, now we get to my top 2, and these are easily my top 2 after a long time thinking about it. And one of these is definitely recency bias, but because of that recency bias, I've grown to realize how much I actually love this studio. And no matter what game they make, it is going to be one of my most anticipated games now. And number 2 is Remedy Entertainment. Remedy is the studio behind Alan Wake 2, Control, Quantum Break, and they currently are working on so many projects. Control 2, a multiplayer Control game. Something else, I forget what. Oh yeah, the Max Payne remakes. I'm very excited to jump into that. I've never played the Max Payne games. And then they just announced that they are partnering with, I think, Annapurna Interactive to work on TV and movie projects for Alan Wake and Control. So you might be actually getting a Alan Wake movie. That is awesome. Remedy is really just checking all the boxes of what I love about video games recently. And after Alan Wake 2 becoming my third favorite game of all time, and me wanting to go back and play Control again, play Quantum Break for the first time, excited for the Max Payne remakes. This is just a studio that I feel like could easily become my number 1 if I just fall in love with them more. But currently my number 1, and probably will always be my number 1 unless they somehow, in some reality, deliver a dud. I don't see it happening. But that is Sucker Punch Productions, the developers behind my favorite game of all time, Ghost of Tsushima, the developers behind one of my most requested PlayStation IPs to return, Sly Cooper, the development team behind my second most requested PlayStation franchise to return, Infamous, and they are just awesome. They are just awesome. Infamous Second Son was awesome. Ghost of Tsushima obviously is great. Sly Cooper games are great. Sucker Punch, just no matter whatever the next game announced from them will be, which it will probably be Ghost of Tsushima 2. It's going to be my most anticipated game of all time. I'm going to just go ahead and say that. It doesn't even have to be Ghost of Tsushima 2. It could be something, it could be a new IP. But if it's Sucker Punch Productions, it's going to be my most anticipated game of all time. Because, when you really think about it, there has been no follow-up to Ghost of Tsushima yet. Ghost of Tsushima became my favorite game of all time, and we haven't heard anything from Sucker Punch since. So, this will be my first time ever genuinely being excited about a Sucker Punch game, because I've never had the mindset of Ghost of Tsushima is my favorite game of all time. So whatever Sucker Punch announces next will automatically be my most anticipated game, probably of all time, unless it's a new IP and I just don't find it as interesting. it'll be my most anticipated game at the moment. Maybe not of all time. But if it is something interested, like, I genuinely just don't see how I won't be over the moon every day glazing it. Like, that's how much I love Ghost of Tsushima, guys. I don't think you understand how much I love Ghost of Tsushima. And so, yeah, it easily has to be my number one. And honestly, after just talking about it, yeah, I don't even think Remedy could overtake it unless, like I said, unless Sucker Punch releases a dud somehow, but I don't see that happening. But, yeah. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what are some of your favorite game studios of all time, or just as of right now, whatever. I know there are some studios that I didn't include here that a lot of people will, like From Software, CD Projekt Red, stuff like that, Rockstar, but for me, those aren't in my top 15. But they are still great studios. But let me know. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Johnny Moore out. Peace.